All right. So I've got a little bit of time here. I figured I would just hop on and see how far I can get. Picking right back up kind of where I left off yesterday. Maybe about an hour or so I think I have this morning. Um, so actually I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I am going to hide this preview because this is a little distracting here. This software is really cool, by the way. What I'm using to stream is called Ecamm Live, and it's pretty amazing. So, yeah, I want to pick right back up where I left off. Yesterday, Ryan and I actually got this is pretty cool. We got this working where this is kind of the editor here, and so what's happening is you can type right here. We are taking this code, running it in an iframe right here. So if I make this full screen, oh, it looks like we need a key there. This output is an iframe. And so we're taking this code, running it in an iframe, which is going to run a Mirage server, and based on this config right here. And then we're going to render some UI in the host app, the Gatsby app, which is running our React code, and show you things like what's in the database. So we just started tinkering around with that yesterday. And here you can see the table, users table with Ryan and Sam. So if I were to say Ryan Toronto right here, this should, yeah, it updates. So we might have to work on some optimizations here. Let's see where this is. P at tutorial 116. Can I click on this? P at tutorial.js. Line 116. Okay, right here. Key is equal to the field. I think that would work. But there's a lot going on here, so I can't tell if it's because I'm streaming or, if it's because there's a lot going on with this code, but I think it will be fast enough. So, oh, fragment at app.js 347, okay. Does this thing need a key? Table? No. Unexpected token. It's at app.js 347. Render routes. This thing has been here forever. I'd be surprised if, oh no, this does have a key. So, let's see if we have any, okay. Default fragment. This guy doesn't have anything about fragments. I wonder if I just add a div here. Oh, it looks like we already have a div right here. So why don't we just use this div? And then we should be able to key equals row. Let's refresh this. I find the hot reloading breaks a lot. Row is an object. So let's make the row. But can keys be objects? Let's just start with an index here. This is each record, so it's really, the key is really like the table name plus the ID. Now in Mirage database, records sometimes don't have an ID, but usually they do. Let's just try row.id just to get this going, because I want to fix this error here. I think this is talking about a different part of the app though. Okay, I think I got rid of one of them. And this is the fragment. So, React fragment, React map fragment key. Without the key, React will fire a warning. Key is the only attribute that can be passed to fragment. In the future, we may. Okay, so you can pass a key to fragment, but short syntax. Except it doesn't support keys. Oh, bummer. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's fine. React.fragment key equals table. And table is a string here, I think. So I see. I already had this right here. That's fine. I might end up changing this. I'll probably end up changing some of this structure once we bring in the UI from the other one here. Okay, let's see if we get rid of the warnings here. And in the meantime, let me pull up from Netlify. I deployed this training app that I built, and it basically has the UI that I want for this inspector here. So Romantic Kepler. Let's see if this still works. Yep. Love Netlify. Truly, truly love Netlify. Okay, now we have no errors. Except this one, which I've seen in all the Gatsby projects I've used because it comes from Helmet. It's like an outdated version of Helmet, and it just seems to keep showing up everywhere. So yeah, this seems to be working. And if I change this to Ryan Toronto, okay, that's going really fast now, actually. So basically, every keystroke here is doing a lot. It's grabbing this iframe shell code that we have, iframe shell, which is right here, which is actually a string. I use Gatsby to ingest this into the content mesh and as a string, and so I can query it basically using this snippets thing right here. And so I get this as a string. I remove these tildes, these backticks right here, so I can get this bootstrap file, and pull in the app.js module based on what the users typed right here. So this becomes like a module alongside these other kind of fake modules. Then I use this really cool tool called Plunker to stitch them all together. So Plunker is this really awesome library that lets you pretend like you have different modules on a file system. You can specify dependencies, and it's going to make requests for all these modules to unpackage and pull them together all in the client without having to run like Webpack or anything on the server. So this is kind of a perfect use case here. And so yeah, what's happening every time I type this, so if I type a keystroke right here, we're rerunning all of this code, which ultimately gets this source doc, which I just set on the iframe right here. And so it loads basically this like fake app that we've built into an iframe, and then that iframe runs Plunker, which runs all this code. So it runs this, which imports the server from whatever the user's defined, and then that's about it. And then right here I'm just adding some event handlers so that whenever the Mirage server that's running in the iframe gets a request, it sends a post message up to the window. And now back in my Gatsby React app, I can have an event handler up here that attaches itself to the message event. And if I know it's coming from, my iframe, then I can go ahead and use that data. So yesterday, Ryan and I, where we left off, we added this, which sends out the database right here as a message. So it takes the Mirage database, dumps it, and sends it up to the parent. And so that's why right here I can use just React state. So we have DB and setDB as React state in our Gatsby app. We, up in that message handler, we basically call setDB right here with the data from the iframe. And now in my UI, I can just iterate over the database table and render each table with the field and the data. So this is like the state of the Mirage database from the iframe, which the person has created right here. So it's pretty awesome. So if I were to create like a message model, dot extend, you see we can get like compiler errors here. This is going to be really, really cool. Can import, belongs to from Mirage.js, and say a user, and say has many. And we should see a foreign key show up. So now the users table has this message ID's foreign key. So this is pretty awesome. Okay, so I think in this stream I just am wanting to focus on the UI a little bit and set aside some of the plumbing stuff here. And the UI is basically going to be based on this training app that I worked on for EmberConf. And so you'll see this is like static. I didn't actually get this wired up to work for this. So I had the trainees kind of just edit their file in their editor and have this update right here, so that whole app would have to refresh. So this is going to be a way cooler experience once we're done with it. But overall, I think the layout is what I want. So conceptually, Mirage is over here on the left, and the client is over here on the right. You have the config that's driving the server definition, and then here is the database. And so you can see in some of these later examples, the database is going to have more stuff going on. And so this is probably what I'm just going to copy. I'm going to work on starting to copy this layout today. And then over here, you can make requests to the app and see the response and see the headers. So I think this is more or less what I'm going to work on. Unfortunately, both projects use Tailwind, so I should be able to copy quite a bit here. And so this is my Ember Octane app, and the inspector is basically this guy right here. So this is the inspector. You can see it has these tabs. It renders the config viewer and the database right over here. That's these two pieces. And over here it has the inspector request component and the inspector response component. So I should just be able to port these over to Ember, or to React from Ember. So I'm going to start with this outer layout here. So first I kind of want to clean this up a little bit and remove some of this stuff. So this is just basically I can just focus on the static layout and then kind of wire back in the functionality at the end. So let's see how we should do this. I think I'm actually going to rename this to tutorial with functionality. And then I'm going to create a tutorial.js. And I'm going to just copy some of the layout code here. Export default function, return. Do I render children over here? No. Okay. So this is kind of a cool, I just figured I would do this. So if you think about this kind of being on the actual website, so I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Svelte. This website, they have a lot of really cool stuff on here. And if you click, REPL, you just see it right here in the page. And it's full screen right here, so I scroll down, there's nothing below this basically. Now Mirage right now we have kind of this like footer area, which I think is okay, I guess we could get rid of it, but right now we have it. But I still want the REPL to take up a lot of the screen. So right now you can see basically the way this is working is the parent here in the root layout has this flex call, flex one thing going on. And so right here, our tutorial is going to have this hard-coded height, so it takes up the rest of the space. And that way it kind of feels like it's full screen, right? It takes up all the available space, so no matter how tall this gets, the REPL will kind of take up that space, but then we can still scroll down and see the footer. So I'm pretty happy with that, I think. So as far as kind of the wrapping container here, that feels pretty good. And then we have this. So let's look at our application template. And let's find the outlet. So this guy has relative Z0, flex 1. Yeah, I think that's fine. So I think we can just go straight for the inspector here. And let's just copy this. Is there like HTML to React? So it like takes care of these class names for me. I guess it's not that big of a deal. Let's copy this, paste this, and just kind of Reactify everything here. So this is going to be the logo, like Mirage logo. First, let me just get all the class names, and just turn them into class names here. My link tos are going to be different. And this is going to be the tab viewer down there. This is my tabs component, which I'll probably make as well. Okay. Okay, looks pretty cool. So looks like we have some padding and stuff going on here. So let's see where this is coming from right here. Don't want that. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So height 28. Height 28. So these are supposed to kind of be the same. Height 28. That's coming from Tailwind UI. So this was made with Tailwind UI, which has some extra values, but I can just add these. So let's see my height. This is going to be part of Tailwind eventually. Also, I like using this little pixel thing because I know from Tailwind to pixels is just 4. So I can just say 28 times 4 is 112. And I can just say this is 112 pixels. And that should make these equal height here once Tailwind has a chance to rebuild. Cool. Other than that, I think most of the layout looks pretty good. So this Mirage logo is probably not really needed because we have it right here. So let's just write server. So right here, I'll just write server. And we'll give it the same treatment as the client over here. Okay. This also looks different. It's probably because, oh, we're using a different font. So maybe this semi-bold is a little too strong. So what about medium? Yeah, I think medium looks pretty good. Wait, what does this guy have? Oh yeah, he has medium. And client has... There we go. Cool. I think I'll tweak some of these when I see more of how it looks. Okay, so config and database here. Little tab treatment. I'm just going to code this right here to start before making like a tabs thing. So I can just let active server tab set active server tab equals react.useState, and it's going to start off with being config, and basically we're going to say for each one of these guys, go ahead and map each tab to a button. Now, in the training, this was tied to the URL here with a query param, which we'll probably want, so it might end up being a link, but let's just get the static UI working with buttons first. So basically we're going to do something like this. Class name, margin right 4, and then right here is going to be if we an expression. So basically tab, if tab is equal to, let's just, right, this needs to be like this. If tab is equal to active server tab, then we want some classes, otherwise we want some other classes. So we want text gray 700, or we want all this stuff. And now we can just render the tab right here. Class name equals there we go. Awesome. Okay. We need a key. I truly don't understand why React doesn't use index as a default key. Truly do not understand. I get that it causes bugs, but it's actually what you want when you're doing something like this. This is not going to ever change, ever. So it just seems weird to me. All right, now we need to say on click equals set active server tab to tab. Boom. We have tabs. Okay. So now we can, right here, basically render, I think we should move this to a new component, Inspector and an inspector slash config and all this stuff. If basically, how do we do this? So active server tab equals config, something like this. Database viewer. Sweet. And let's see here. Now we want to get this request over here, so let's see what's going on over here. Okay, tabs. Should we just go ahead and make this tabs component? It seems kind of fun. We're using it in these 3 places, so what might this look like? You know, I ended up doing this in the Ember app and made the tabs component kind of high enough that it really didn't render anything, and you could render the panels below So that seems like reasonable. And then I wanted to change the rendering for one of these right here. I was using tabs, but I wanted to maybe change the styling, but then I just didn't because it was easy to reuse tabs. But I was like, it'd be kind of nice to be able to pass in like active class and everything. Is it really worth it? Oh, and then also if this is tied to query params right here, it kind of gets a little interesting. So I guess I could just copy and paste this, but I really want to make a tabs component. I can make it renderless so that basically I get rid of having to do this 4 times and wire this up. It's not the end of the world though. Let's do it. Can't help myself. Request. I mean, this doesn't even have another tab, so it's really kind of ridiculous. This one does. So the tabs would have to be outside of this. Actually, this is an interesting use case. So I was having this conversation with Ryan about this and looking online, and I saw that in React Router they have a hook that returns both a component and state. So if I only used components here, I guess that's not really relevant here because I wouldn't need the isActive. I could do it right here. Anyways, if I wanted to abstract this, I would need like tabs above this and this. It needs to be in the lowest common ancestor because the tabs themselves are right here and then the panels themselves are right here. So it would need to be, I think, at this level. So it would be tabs like this. Let me just commit this really quick because I'm probably going to undo this. Git commit working in progress on inspector UI. So if I did tabs, see if this is actually an improvement. We would pull these in, and this would be able to become a tab for config and a tab for database. And we'd be able to remove all this. Where's that div coming from? I think I messed this up. Yeah, I did. It actually needs to be outside of this. So this is where it gets a little weird, right? Not sure this is worth it. It would look like this. Tabs. Right here, we would have tab config, tab database, like this. And then we would have tab panel. And this will become something like the config viewer, right? And then this would become the database viewer. So yeah, that's kind of, it kind of sucks you have to render this. So I wonder if there's a way to basically like use tabs. Now you could pass them in right here, like the labels. So that way the hook would know there's 2. And then you can get rid of this wrapper. That'd be pretty cool. Seems confusing. Let's, if we undo all this, let's just discard changes. You know, it's nice that these are separate. I wonder if there's like use tab state. Use use tab state. Let something. So what would this actually look like? What do I really want to do here? I really want to be able to do this. Say that this is config, and on click, yeah, set active tab to config, no more key, and then right here I want to say is active, and I want this to come from my hook config, and if it is active, I want text gray 700. If it's not, I want all this. So let's say we had this, right? We have set active server tab, and we have is active. So we're going to need to call this separate things because I'm going to have like multiple versions of these tab states. Again, trying to think if this is worth it. And then, so you get a function from this theoretical hook that you can call, you can ask if it's active. So that's config, and then we would do the same thing for database. So I might keep the map here. And this would just be is active tab. And then down here, this would be the same thing. So it's almost the same as just using your own state, honestly. Okay, I convinced myself. Just responding to something really quick. And I'll let you know when I pick up the car. Going on a little mini road trip today. Okay, so don't save. So I'm just gonna not do any of that. What I'm gonna do is just keep working on bringing this over here. So let's get request over here into client. Right here. No more tabs. Thank you very much. Okay, it's a different weight for some reason. Because it's not active. So the active was text gray 700. So is that really the only difference? Oh, font medium. But why didn't I have that over here? Maybe it just didn't show up in this font. Huh, that's weird. Okay. Font medium, text gray 700. All right, there's the request. We got our little tab treatment over here. We got the request and the client. And we also need this part. Which is right here. So I think actually we have it. We just don't have it built. Nothing's inside of it. Background gray 100. Height 1/2. Is height 1/2 not defined? Looks like it's not defined. So height 1/2. Let's see here. Height 1/2. So that's interesting. I guess it just doesn't come with it. Okay. 1/2. Okay. All right. Height 1/2. The old 50%. And once that rebuilds, we should get something there. So this is going to be down here. This is going to be the response panel. And this whole thing is the request panel. And this is going to be the actual request maker. And okay, awesome. That looks pretty good. Very cool. All right. So we should have this have the same treatment over here. Where's the shadow or the border or something? Is it on the parent? Yep. Shadow, height 28. You can do the same thing right here. Where's that height 28? Right here. Shadow. Cool. Because that way these can scroll. Maybe we'll hide the footer on this inspector. It's possible. I didn't have that over here, and it works nice because when you're on kind of longer examples, GraphQL 1 for example, yeah, you want to scroll this, you want to maybe scroll all this stuff. You have a big post body right here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, this is pretty cool. I mean, this is the structure, the basic structure of it. So let's render the, we have this config now. Let's bring this back. So why don't I just start making components for this stuff? Or I might just copy and paste some of this stuff back in. Actually, is there anything I need here from this layout that I want to keep? Text area is where the editor was. This is my fake database viewer. And then I need this iframe. And this stuff, oh yeah, and then the error messaging, right? Let's start by bringing in the config. So I need this, and I need these. So I'm going to start with this. Let's import this. Should I make a separate thing for this? What do I really want to be able to do right here, where it says config? I kind of want to just render my code mirror thing, don't I? My inspector, I don't know, inspector editor, config editor. There's no like name spacing in React, is there? I don't think so. Inspector config editor. Let's start with that. So that is going to, my imports need to be separate. Let's just go ahead and it's going to get crazy in here, I think. So components, inspector, config, editor.js. Export default. And I'm just going to create an index here. Import config editor from config editor, export default. I think I can do this, right? I want to basically be able to import like this config editor from does auto import work here? Auto import, but that goes straight to the thing. Maybe I should just use that more. I don't know. It's not going to work, is it? Hi, from config editor. Also, star as inspector. This would be cool. I think I can do this. Export const foo equals bar. Log inspector. What? Oh, whoops. Import React from React. Parsing error. Oh, okay. I think I just had a typo. Okay, there's the module. So I always get confused by this stuff. I want to be able to say inspector dot foo. That works. So can I just export this? Export default object? Is that how this works? There we go. Undefined. Ah. But now I should have config editor. Still undefined. Module. Default. Config editor. So can I use this? Export default function return JSX. I'm still making some dumb mistake. Export. I've done this a million times. Export const. There we go. So it has to be a named export. So how do you just do yes, export a named import? I want like the simplest way to do this. Export a list. Here we go. With renaming. Export default. I basically want this to be, maybe I should just use named exports everywhere, huh? Export default from config editor. No. Config editor was not found in components inspector. Oh, but that's exporting it as a default. I need to export it as a named. I need to export a default as a named property. Default exports. Aggregating modules. Export star from. Does not set the default export. An import star is all about importing named. Right? What about import? Import star as name. Import default, import star as name. Okay. Star as name. I kind of want to figure this out. So can I do this as config editor? There we go. So when I was doing this, yeah, of course it can't be named because there is no name, so it's going to be the default. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so there's the config editor right here. This guy needs code mirror. Let's go back to our tutorial with functionality. Config editor is going to basically just render a text area. So let's get our text area. And maybe we don't even need to do this because, yeah, this is just kind of some weird indirection from yesterday. So instead, let's get our effect here. This is kind of what we want. So we want to create a new code mirror instance and attach it to a div. So I'm going to make this a div. I'm going to give it a ref. React.use ref. Let editor ref is equal to this. And over here, you can create it programmatic API, constructor is an instance, place, if the place argument is an element. So I think we can just say new code mirror. Let's say new code mirror, and we pass in the editor ref. And that should do it. So let's see what happens. Boom. Awesome. That's great. And very cool. So pass some options in as well. Paste this. Should be able to write JavaScript now. Let x equals. Awesome. All right, now we're cooking with gas. So what do we want for this? We want our parent here, which is rendering the config editor. Should it be responsible for getting the starting input and the snippets? I don't think so. But it is going to need to do this work right here. So it needs the input somehow. And so over here in the tutorial, the config editor can find its initial, I guess if it's, no, it should take that in. It should take it in. Value equals, right? Value equals input, config input. What do we call it over here? Yeah, input, config input, config input, and then we need like an on change. On change, what do we call it? Handle input change, right? Handle config input change. So I think this is just some new state. Set input. Yep. Set input. Yep. So we'll keep this in the tutorial. So we have the input here. And let x equals foo. This is the config input, set config input, right? And I know this is going to be a function because it needs to reset some stuff. So let's go ahead and say function this. This is going to take the new input. And we're going to clear some errors here, but then we're going to call set config new config input, right? So all right, now we need to use that down here in our editor. So the editor gets config input and handle, what do we call it? Handle on change, right? Okay, it gets value and on change. Value and on change, of course. So we should be able to pass in value here like that. Sweet. And we're not cleaning up after ourselves, so we're making multiple images, instances of the thing. There we go. That's awesome. So how do you clean this thing up? Constructor, like destroy or something? Clean up. I do not like this website. Content manipulation, selection, configuration, miscellaneous, indent line. I just want to figure out how to clean this thing up. Because there is a way. Code mirror, destroy editor instance. How to kill an instance. Hmm. I mean, anyways, it's kind of annoying. Like if I hide it, okay, it goes away. I mean, that's pretty fast. But my hot module reloading is broken because I'm not cleaning up after myself somehow, so. Not sure. Okay, let's keep going here. So I think I want on change. On change. It's really annoying. And so this is kind of interesting. This is like a controlled thing, and I don't want it to re-render every time the state changes. Now, if the state does change, yeah, so this is interesting. I think I'm not going to worry about this right now, but if we were to click on something that like changes the config, maybe an exercise viewer, should this update? Yes, it should. But will it rerun every single time value changes if we're the ones changing value? So let's see. So the linter wants me to put on change is not going to change at all, right? On change, handle config input change. It's not going to change at all. Does that mean what if I were to just do this to start? Is this going to be crazy? Log instantiating code mirror. Once. Okay. Seems okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a problem. I need a cleanup function. But I don't actually want this to run every single time. It's pretty fast. When the editor mounts, basically I want to say if I have code mirror already there. So I could use a ref, and if ref.current is equal to code mirror, then I don't need to do anything, right? I really want just like did insert element here. I think that would work. Editor ref. This is going to be confusing. So editor ref. Editor div ref, and then I'll have an actual editor ref. And right here I can say if we don't have a current value there, then right here we'll just store this as a ref. So now the effect can run all day. It's fine. Now that the cleanup would be to remove it, so this might not work. Okay. Okay. So did it actually? All right. Seems pretty good. Now value changes, that might be okay actually, because we don't need to set this. We would just need to add, we need to add another effect for when value changes to update the editor, but that's fine. We don't need that right now. Okay, that seems like an okay solution. So, all right, that looks pretty good, and that'll fix our issue with the double rendering on the hot module reloading as well. So that seems all right to me actually. Let's move this to the bottom actually. Now we want this to be a little bit, can we do like this, like P4 class name? That's pretty neat. Background white. Yeah, I think the parent is setting this to background gray, right? Yeah, we don't need that actually. This is pretty cool. And I also would like this to be like a certain height. I think CodeMirror has some weird stuff here. Height 100%. Maybe this would need to be flex 1. Okay. Okay. Flex 1. Enter. That seems okay. Flex 1. And then does CodeMirror have like an API for styling it? Okay. This is really cool. Yeah, I need to add CodeMirror height 100. I think the API for CodeMirror is literally just using CSS, so it would be nice if I could write some global CSS here. I think I might be able to, because I think we're using styled components. Create global style. Awesome. Let's see if this works. Create global style. Const create global. I just want to write it, dude. Create global style. Body. Background color green. It's my favorite global style. Global style white color. Okay, that's fine. Right. So we're rendering this, but now we need to render a fragment. Kind of silly. And our style. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. That's awesome. All right, so now I can just do CodeMirror height 100%. Awesome. There it is. Okay, so who knows what this is going to look like if I were just paste a bunch of JavaScript in here. Oh, okay. Wow. That actually looks pretty good. Looks like we have an issue here with probably just needs to be relative right here. Height 28 relative. Z0. Okay, yeah. Z0 or Z10. I think I had to do this my other one. Do I need relative on here? No, I just need to give it a Z index. So, back in the inspector. Nope. Back in the tutorial. Height 28. First one, Z10. Because it has shadow. That, I guess that makes sense. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. All right, that's we're getting somewhere. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I can just like paste in all this. Boom. All right, let's see if I can get this done before I have to go. Let's get the config working. So the tutorial, let's close all this out for a second. To get the initial input, I need this. So I'm going to copy this over. I could wrap all this in like a snippets thing, but use tutorial snippets. Sure. Let's throw it down here. Function use tutorial snippets. Return snippets key. Name. I think it's just like name, right? Yeah. Name. And this guy is from Gatsby. This guy is from Gatsby. Not bad. So this is pretty cool. Starting input. It's pretty awesome. Use tutorial snippet. Okay, so the only thing about instantiating this code mirror each time I click on this, that's fine actually, because the state is in the parent, so the config is not going anywhere. So it's really just instantiating. Yeah, that makes sense, right? The editor is kind of this like dumb editor that I still don't know how to clean up, but maybe I don't need to now. And it just takes a value and an on change. But like my tutorial like component right here is going to be the one responsible for holding on to that string, that state, right? The config input is state on the parent, so it's going to be fine. It's going to be persistent, and yeah, it'll be the one wiring all this together. So now we need to bring back in some of this other stuff. Right here. So this is going to be the I need to render this somewhere. So in this UI, we need to render this in an iframe. And the previous tutorial showed the output, but we just need to render it somewhere. Client. Okay, maybe we just have like an output tab. But we need that to always be rendered. Will not always be shown though. So maybe these tabs can just use hidden and they don't have to actually tear down. It's probably better anyways, right? Client. So we don't, if we're not going to start with this, then if we're not going to start by showing the output, we need to actually run this code somewhere. And we want to run it in an iframe and then use that to communicate back with the inspector so we can render out the database tab and make requests and see the responses. So why don't we just render it somewhere? It doesn't actually matter, I think. We can literally hide it. But eventually it will be over here. So let's put it over here. So request. We're going to have like a UI, basically. And this is going to be a tab. This is flex call. It's weird. I don't know why. I don't think this one was it? But why? Height 28. Flex call. Wait, over here. This doesn't need to be flex call, right? What? Oh, that's right. Oh, this just needs to have this wrapper. Thank you. I just want this like this. And then these are going to be like buttons. And they're going to be like this, right? So UI is just going to be hidden, basically, but it's going to be there. So I just want to do this because I know eventually we're going to have like an output somewhere, but I just need a place to actually put this. So I think to start, this is just going to be static. This is going to be, this is kind of active, right? I thought these were like text gray. I think they're supposed to be text gray 700. And this is just going to be hidden. And so you can't click on it. And then down here, the request maker is going to definitely be this thing. And we're also going to go ahead with the iframe. So let's go ahead and render inspector dot sandbox client code, which we call this. This is the component that's actually going to render what the like the app sandbox. That's fine. Okay, so inspector index config editor. Yeah, that's fine. Sandbox. All right, what is our sandbox going to look like here? Export default function. Hi. Return. Hi. Okay, there we go. Request maker is now the sandbox. Okay, yeah, that is going to be the request maker, but the sandbox is basically going to, it's not really going to render anything. So this thing needs to have an iframe, basically. It is the output. And it needs this source doc. So I think what we want to do is have all this I think the parent should probably do this work. So this will just take it in as a prop, source doc. So tutorial. Splice in the input into the iframe shell. So now we can just, this is pretty cool. Use tutorial snippet, iframe shell, and then splice in the config input and grab the source doc and go ahead and pass that into our sandbox. Boom. There it is. It's running. Very cool. iframe shell log. So let's get rid of this, and I'm just curious. So we need to wire these console logs back up. This is exciting. If I were to add console.log server.db.dump, this is like the real test. Whoa, that's awesome. All right. All right. This is half. This seems a little bit big, but maybe not. Cool. This is awesome. That's very cool. Console.log hello from iframe. And the database, I think we're going to want the database like right here. I think it'd be really cool to see it at the same time. So what we did yesterday was got this database working. And let's see if we can pull that in. So the iframe is already sending this Mirage DB message. And so I think we just need to add the handler here, like this. Tutorial. Use effect, add this guy, function handle message. I think we just copy this. I don't like that. Function handle message. So we don't have any of this right now, but if if we get some new state. DB, set DB, use state object, DB. Then over here, DB. Where do we render this? Right here. Close this. Messed up. Sometimes I don't like that Prettier does that because it makes it hard. Boom. All right, user Sam and Ryan. So now I should be able to come back here and say like this, and then go back here. That's pretty cool. All right. I need to stop it. I don't want to stop. How fast can I get some of this database UI from my old app? So let's look at the database viewer. Let's just make a new component. Inspector database.js. Div hi from DB. Let's get some inspector.database. And we just, I think we're just gonna pass in the database. What did I take in over here in the Ember app? Database. Yeah, DB. Pretty cool. DB equals DB. Looks good. DB. I don't need this anymore, really. Let's go over to our index and export default as database from database. And let's come here. This is looking pretty, this should be pretty easy, right? I always forget that my Vim doesn't copy over. Active table, should that come from the parent as a prop or should it be database state? I think, okay, well, if I click over here and this guy gets torn down, then that would be bad, I guess. So maybe we can just hide it instead of reinstantiating it each time. Probably makes sense to keep these alive, right? Maybe. I guess tearing it down is like better because it doesn't keep as much stuff around. But then all the state that we want to preserve in the database tab, we need to store in the parent. And it would be nice to store it on the database component. Active tab. Let's store it on the component, and we'll change these to actually render both of these and just toggle showing and hiding them so they don't unrender. Seems less than ideal, but I don't really want to have like active table basically is the only state. I don't know. Let's just start with it on the database component. It's going to be tied to like the routes eventually, so we'll have to figure that out. Okay, so let active table set active table name equals react.useState. Yeah, it's basically like this, right? It's like, gosh dang it. Table names, yeah. Keep doing that. Let table names equals oh, why did I do that? Object.keys of DB. And active table name. This is like default, really. If active table name, so active table name tabs it's kind of confusing. Then go ahead and render nav. Let's just copy this in a different way. Let's do this a little bit at a time because I'm going to get confused. Let's go back to rendering something. Hi. And I'm just going to come over here to the tutorial and say the active starting tab is database. Just to make my life a little easier here. And okay, so I need to render a nav for each table. So let's start with that. We're going to map over the table names. These are buttons, they need a key. And we need to render this to upper, like, how do I capitalize in JavaScript? JavaScript, capitalize. Dumb. Const capitalize equals name. Cool. Let's get our starting input here and create another model, message model that belongs to a user, belongs to. So we should have multiple tables here. Yes, I did. starting input. Message. And let's see what treatment we gave these guys. I think it's the same thing. Each button gets class name. It's going to be dynamic. And it's going to be the same treatment here. So right here. Yeah, but why aren't you? If table name is equal to active table name. Okay. All right, sure. I just thought it would format differently. Tab is not defined. Awesome. Why are they both active? Oh, that's why. Should be one of them active. Table names. Log. Active table name. Undefined. Log. Table names. 2. Users and messages. So why? It's the first time it renders. We haven't run it yet, so this would need an effect. If the database changes, I mean, we do need to update this whenever the database changes, right? Whenever you get a new database, if I was editing the config and I was looking at the database and the users table, I mean, the database could change completely. So this is interesting. If the database changes completely, I'm going to start out with wiping away the database, because I could basically just remove this, and if the active table name persisted and it was like messages, and then like I come over here and delete this and come back, and it's going to try to render the messages table, which doesn't exist anymore. So basically every time we get a new database, we need to reset the world over here, I think. So react.use effect db I just want the first one to be active. Can I do this? Set active table name. I don't know if this is going to work. let's just get rid of users, right? Like, every time my table names change, set the active table to the first one. All right, that seems okay. Okay. All right. Now we just need a little on click. Class name on click. Set active table name to table name. Nope. This shouldn't be running. Log effect running. Just by clicking on this, this is interesting. So just by clicking on the button, I'm triggering a re-render. And this is rerunning even though this hasn't changed. You know, I really only want this to change if there is no active name. So I think we can just say if there's no active table name and we have table names, then this is more what we want. That was surprising though. Active table names. Active table name. No errors. Can change my table, messages, come back. Yeah, so that's kind of annoying, I guess. But if I change, yeah, that really should persist, huh? So this should use like a service, or we should just render both of them. I think we should just render both of them. I think. Inspector.database. Let's just render both of them, I think. Div. I think I'm going to, because I think it's just a little. Basically, class name. Active server tab is database. Then hidden. Right? If it's not database. Okay, so now we have the database. We select messages, come back. Seems easier than like using persistent state for now. And I could do the same thing over here, so this doesn't have to like reinstantiate CodeMirror every time. That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to leave that for now. You can always refactor it later, right? And add like use local storage state or use a service state so that it stays selected. But yeah, basically you're looking at messages and you come back here. Okay, let's keep going with this. So there's a table selector, cool. And now we want to render this guy. So if this dot rows. I'm just going to do this. Where's my nav? Make database full screen over here. Database nav. All right, there it is. We have this guy. If we have rows, so let's let the rows. If the active table, okay, so active rows. Basically, let rows equals db active table name. I think that's what we want. So then we can say rows.length. Then we do this. Otherwise, we do this. And this is going to be down here. Data. The capitalize active table name, table has no records. All right, let's see. Cool, messages table has no records, user once does. Awesome. All right, so let's go here. We're gonna get some of this stuff. We're gonna map over this stuff. So keep doing that. Table body, we'll just close that off for now. Close off table, close off a div, close off another div, and then fix this to be fields, which is going to be fields, right? So let fields equals this dot records rows records. Let records equals. Okay, so these are records actually. The rows are this. So records map to this thing, and then we have the fields. So used to copying in Vim, and it doesn't carry over between these. Let fields equals get fields from records function. What am I not using this? Oh no, it's just function records. Move all this junk down here. Boom. And then right here we can map over the fields. Map field. I messed something up. Ah, right here. Field. Function get fields from records. Hmm. Did it fix this? I think so. So what is wrong with this function definition? Something stupid. Oh, function. All right, get fields from records. There we go. Let's check it out. Whoa, what is going on? I'm just copying here too fast, so I gotta check this out real quick. I want to see this work though. It's so close. Let's go to the first error. Cannot read property map of undefined. Ah. Let records, let rows, let fields, if active table. Name. It might be good to like use a reducer eventually, because this is all like derived from each other, but this is just like a lot of defensive coding, right? It would be good to chat with Ryan and see how maybe we can improve this. Let's see here. Cannot read property length of undefined. Rows.length. So rows is an array. Records is an array of objects. Fields is an array. Cannot read property caret. Okay, really? I'm trying to capitalize something that doesn't exist. Table names. Capitalize table name. Active table has no records. So this should only happen if there actually is a table. So if active table name, we need to wrap this. The nav. Okay, so we basically need to wrap this. Active table name. Then go ahead and render all this. Otherwise, render all that. So basically all this is going to get moved up to here. Otherwise, we're going to render this. Do I need a... Always gets me. Error-driven development over here. Just one at a time. Cannot write property fields of undefined. We try to map the records. Ah, this dot fields. So I need the fields first. All right, looks like that might be maybe it. Okay, all right. 53. I'll appease you, master. Key equals field. Master compiler, you know what's best. You know what's best. I will do as you say, even if it's the same exact thing every time I map over an array. Awesome. No error messages. Okay. I was expecting to see a header here. ID and name. What's the deal? Why is everything white? Table. Inline block. Why are you inline block? Why are you overflow hidden? Oh, this is like a Tailwind UI table, and I don't have Tailwind UI in this project. It's probably worth bringing it in. Tailwind CSS 1.2. Tailwind CSS 1.2. Okay, so the problem is I'm already customizing Tailwind, so let me see how this works here. It's a plugin, but the plugin might like stomp on some of my config values. Or the extensions added by the plugin will be superseded by values in your config. Keep any of your own modifications under the theme extend to make sure everything works as expected. All right, well, they say, all right, dude, let's see if this works. What is missing? Height 0. Does this thing need to be? Maybe this stuff needs to be. Height 0. Height full. Height full. Like flex call. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. Oh, cool. Database. I just need to add like height full all over the place. Overflow hidden. Where's all this stuff? There's my table. So it's up a little bit. So it's like right here. Do I even need this thing? Do I? I think I do. But maybe I can just make that a fragment. And this is height full. Okay, so now we're better. So this and this needs to be, so this thing needs to be flex call. So back in our tutorial where we're rendering our database, this thing is hidden. Otherwise, it needs to be height full. And it needs to be flex and flex call. Boom. ID name. All right, we're so close. So close. Let's get these records in here. So table body, where are you at? Database, T body, right here. rows, map, row, and index. Class name equals. Can I just do an expression? If index mod 2 bg gray 50 bg white. It's nice not to have to make a mod sub expression. Okay. Let's just render the data here. Adder. Let's see if that's working. A key, again, key equals whatever. The index is not going to change. I don't think. I'm wrapping up. So close, so close. Rows map. Do we have the rows being rendered here? Yes, yes. No. Table body. There we go. Okay. So then we're going to map over row.adders dot map adder index. Key. I will learn eventually. I feel like it should just lint. It should tell me. The linter should tell me. Seems pretty obvious. Does it? No. Why is that not a lint error? If it's going to error in runtime, in development, just lint that. Right? Okay. If... Okay, so our class name is dynamic. So class name, we're going to say if the index is equal to row.adders.length minus 1, then we want width full, otherwise nothing. Yeah. The last column should be full width, basically, is what that's all about. And then we just render the adder. Whoops. Boom. So cool. Why is this yelling at me? It needs a return value. So sort, what should it return in the event that it's not? Otherwise return 0, I guess. I hate JavaScript sort function signature. JavaScript sort function. Wow, this is so cool. It's working. Messages. Let's come here and create a message. Text. Hello, Mirage. Mirage inspector. And it'd be pretty cool if I could like use prettier on this. Oh, we need to update the database. Ah, because we're not listening. We are. Wait, I thought this worked. Something's not working. I thought for sure this was working. I broke something. Sort function. Okay, return 0. All right. Wait, what happened? Ryan, config. Ah. Server.create message. Text. Hello, inspector. Oh, it's showing. I don't know what was. It might have been a hot module reloading thing. Wow, this is so cool. Create list message 20. Boom. Oh man, this is so cool. Wow. All right. Has many. Dot extend. Messages. Has many. Wow, this is pretty awesome. Honestly, what you really want here is just to be able to edit this database. How would that work? Yeah, I guess you commit it, and then the iframe would send up the message back to the parent. Wait, this is being rendered in the parent, so you would have to edit this and then send the new database down into the iframe. That'd be interesting. This is so cool. Now, it doesn't look the same. I guess this is because either the font. This is font semi-bold. Yes, that's a little bit heavy with this, the font we have in the Mirage website. So, tutorial, database, table header. I think medium would be better. And also, the color is off. This color is 600, text small. This is 600, but it's R600, so I'm going to make this probably the 700. I think that looks a little bit better. Wow, this is so neat. So wait, I could just come in here and like, I should be able to like factory this up. Factory, models, factories, user, factory.extend, name, return user I, and then like server create list 100. I have a feeling there's like an error and I'm just not seeing it somewhere, and I haven't wired up the errors yet. Copy this. Syntax error. Syntax error. Syntax error. Where is it? There's my 100 users. Where's the syntax error? Oh, just need more feedback here. This is like, can I do this? This is pretty awesome. Oh, it can't do, it doesn't have like template strings, looks like. User plus I. There we go. So it doesn't have template strings. Interesting. Wow, this is pretty awesome. All right, so it looks a little funky inside of the Mirage UI. I think what we'll do is when you visit /tutorial or /inspector or whatever, we'll make the header big. We'll make it full screen. I think it'll look better. But this is pretty awesome. And I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So next time we're gonna work on wiring back up the error messages from the iframe and showing those, you know, over here if you type and something's messed up, and then getting the request and response panels back up from this guy. So we have definitely more bluish grays over here. It looks pretty good though. The config here was on a gray background, but I think this looks better. Again, I really like whatever Svelte does is pretty awesome. So, they have code on the colored background here. Pretty interesting. All right. And config database, result JS output. Yeah, this is so cool. I definitely want to add something like this eventually. Request. This is going to be just fine for now. And we'll have this as well. So, yeah, pretty exciting. Wow, this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna commit this right now. Commit all. Yeah, the config editor and database is kind of working. Might be some tweaks to the UI here, but is wired up. Awesome. All right, that's it for me today. See you next time.